You're watching a special edition of Wake Up with Al, tracking Irene.
Huntington and Springfield. And we want to take you now to Huntington, Long Island. That's where we have seen people wading through the water, also cars partially submerged in the water. So a lot of surges coming in. I would say that all the water we're seeing around here is not from the rain coming from the sky 100%. It's from that push of water combined with the rain that's coming down. Also in Massachusetts, Springfield, we've been getting heavier showers as our bands rotate around. We have had tornado warnings as well posted here on Long Island, and very rough waves as well. And that water, I just went over and looked over on the side of the boardwalk there. It's about halfway up here, at least, in Long Beach. And I wanted to hop on these little berms that are behind me, but those are starting to crumble as well. So conditions are continuing to deteriorate, and we're not going to pull away for your local on the 8th. We're going to stay with them here, so that's why we have these double boxes. We know that Irene is not the only player in town, and you guys want your local on the 8th, but we do know that it is capturing the nation right now. This is a good gust we got going on right here, coming through, and that's how the morning has been. You get a nice gust, and then it kind of pulls back, and then you get another gust. So let's look at Irene. On the west side of the system is where all the rain is located. So there are flood advisories posted with this. Watch out along the rivers, watch out along the creeks. If you are on Twitter or Facebook, you can follow myself, just Stephanie Abrams, Jen Carfagno, and she has also been posting about these rivers and the creeks. So follow her on Twitter. Right now it is a Category 1. It looks like it'll make landfall around between 10 and 11 o'clock as we head throughout the morning hours. And there's no real eye with this system anymore, and then it's going to race off into the northeast. There is that threat of tornadoes as well as with this system. Tornado condition index shows that. As you can see, we've already had those warnings and also those watches. So here's a look at our tornado condition index, and where you will see the highest threat is where you see the red shading on this map. And wherever you see a number, that's your percentage chance of a tornado within 50-mile radius. Long Island, a 30% chance on a 50-mile radius. In northeastern New England is a 20% chance within a 50-mile radius. And Al Roker has now hopped over to join us.
Right where we were standing earlier,
yeah.
The water is now breaching that sand berm, and it's actually flooding the parking lot where our apartment and our crews are right now.
And have you seen any more debris from what we saw earlier this morning?
Yeah, there's more debris floating in, and we understand there's been a real breach 4 blocks down of the sand berm.
Okay, so you had the anemometer. Did you get any other readings?
Hold on, I had a 50-mile-per-hour gust about 5 minutes ago, 42 miles. So, you know,
we're sustained around, what did you say, about 20 to 30-ish?
Yeah, I'd say 30 to 35.
Is what we're sustained right now. And this is basically what we're going to get as we head through the day. I mean, I do think the biggest threat will be the flooding and that push of water.
Right, and in fact, we are seeing more flooding here. A number of our colleagues' satellite trucks are starting to flood out. CNN's truck was getting flooded out. They've had to shut down and move, and so did with CBS's truck. So, it really is starting to move. The water's starting to make its way in.
Okay, so you can see the waves. So you see this barrier they've made. We were showing it to you yesterday.
Yeah, there's a breach right there.
Yeah, there's a big breach in here right there. And I was going to try to stand on those, but they're starting to crumble, so I'm not going to do that.
Don't do that. In fact, that building, you can see, if they can see that building, that's the Beach Patrol building. And they were trying to protect that, and the water is now rushing in there.
2 other notes for you. We still have power, A.
Yes.
There's water. Nick just told me, our producer, Nick Palladino, he said that there's water in the lobby of our hotel, even though,
they put up sandbags.
They put a sandbag.
But it's lower lying, and so that's going to be a problem.
And it's also very cold out here. That was a note that I was making earlier.
Well, it's all
You're
relative.
not cold.
I'm not cold. I like it cold enough to hang meat.
That's true, but this isn't exactly a Florida hurricane where you're sweating in all this plastic.
Think about this. If we're a few months from now, this would just be a classic nor'easter, and we'd be talking about 3 feet of snow.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. So we're going to continue to stay here on the boardwalk and give you updates on what it's like outside while you guys stay inside and continue to watch it from there. And still 2 million people right now without power.
Yep.
All right, maybe our experts with Cantoria we're going to now? Woo! Dr. Knabb, we want to bring in a hurricane expert. Do you have any questions for him? You've been going for a while here.
Yeah, I mean, we're still a ways away, at least 30 minutes away from high tide. and yet we're still seeing this water piling up. What about after the hurricane leaves? What about the sound side, the Long Island Sound, or bays, the bays on the northern part of our island?
Yeah, Long Island Sound. Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, the big problem for them would be a long fetch out of the east.
Right.
And I don't know if they're going to get quite that big of a problem. I'm more concerned about the southerly fetch pushing on to the southern shores of maybe central and eastern Long Island and the southern shores of the New England area.
Right, Narragansett Bay, Buzzards Bay. Yeah, I'm inclined to think that Long Island Sound and the potential threat for flooding there, which is actually pretty extreme because the tide fluctuation there's 8 feet as opposed to 5 feet on the south side. So when you put water in there, boy, there's nowhere to get it out except to flood it at the end and then run it down the Harlem River down to the East River. So I'd say there'll probably be water rise there because they've had a pretty long southeast wind, but not the real worst case kind of flooding situation.
Right, and of course the big problem, Steph, is the flooding that we still see an extreme threat for in inland areas of the Northeast. Back to you.
Yeah, all right, thanks for that, Dr. Knabb. Let's talk more about that with Mike. And Mike, you and I were talking a little bit earlier. Basically, we're not going to see this storm intensify through the day. I think what's going to get much worse will be that rainfall and flood threat, though.
We've already seen the flooding, Steph, and so you add more rain to that, you can only guess now that we're going to have more issues for us. And so I'm going to show you kind of the areas away from the center, because away from the center is where we had most of the heavier rain bands. The area that's highlighted here in yellow, another 4 to 8 inches of rain on top of what we've seen already. That'll extend up to the Capital District, up through the mountains, through New Hampshire, through New Hampshire and Vermont. But these are areas like Atlantic City. I mean, the conditions will be improving for us. Cape Cod, yes, we'll get peak wind gusts. It could go as high as 65, but another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall in Boston. Gusty winds and more rainfall for you as well. Another 4 inches possibly, Steph.
All right, sorry, Mike, we certainly appreciate that. We're going to step away for a quick break, and then we'll be up with everything you need to know about Hurricane